The next item is the Career Pathways Update. Dr. Pilch, I turn to you once again.
Thank you, Mr. DeWitt. So, you all have often heard me talk about the importance of graduating every student career and college ready. And this work is work that leads to career preparedness or college readiness for every one of our students. And what we have for you tonight is an update on the big work we've been doing around career pathways. I just want to say again, in my time in coming to District 6, I'm in my 4th month now, this is one of the jewels in our crown. What we are doing for our students, really starting in middle school, early on, and all the way through high school, what we are doing around career pathways is commendable, truly commendable here in District 6, and really a model that I'm sure other districts are looking to. And so I have with us tonight Executive Director Kathy Van Soest, who's going to give us a little bit of an update, and we hope that you'll have some comments and questions that we can answer for you after Kathy is done.
Good evening, President DeWitt, Dr. Pilch, and members of the board. Tonight we talk about the career pathways and the vision and what it means for our students. Students have an opportunity through career pathways to take courses that align to their interests and their career ideas. And we start planning for this when they are young. How do we build this readiness at an early age in order to be prepared for work, for career, for college? We begin with career exploration and college campus visits. So in 6th grade and 7th grade, we take 6th graders on a trip to Ames, have career exploration activities at school. In 7th grade, we take them on a trip to UNC for a campus visit to learn more and have additional career explorations. In the summer, we even provide opportunities for them to get a sense of what opportunities are at Ames and to take 2-week-long courses at Ames Community College, and in addition, plan activities at the Rodarte Center. So we do many things in those early middle years. In 8th grade, and we're getting ready to plan several big events in the 8th grade, we have an opportunity in November for all of our 8th graders to go for a day of field work to visit all 3 of our large high schools. And then for a following day to visit Early College Academy. This will be an opportunity for our 8th graders to really see and hear about the different career pathways and the different opportunities that are aligned with each of our high schools. In addition, in 8th grade, we have a career fair in the spring. We have a UNC visit this year in the spring. We also guide them through an interest survey so that they have more information on what would be good things to be aligned with their thinking and their interests. And then we also developed the IKA, the Individual Career and Academic Plan in the 8th grade. So we really prepare our 8th graders to really think about the what's next in high school and what's next after high school, and think that through. In the 10th, 11th, and 12th grades and 9th grade, they will have an opportunity to take the CLC class in the 9th grade, which looks at different career exploration opportunities, to have college visits on campus in 10th and 11th grade, and to provide all kinds of opportunities for field experiences. So let's look at the components of a pathway overview. Each pathway has opportunities for rigorous core academic classes. In addition, they have elective classes that they can take that align to the pathway or their interests. Then they have field opportunities. You've heard so much more about our job shadowing experience, and especially our summer internship program that we just had, that provided field opportunities for our students so that they could learn a lot more about careers, a lot more about working out in our community. Then we have post-secondary courses, opportunities for our high school students to earn college credit. These are the pathways that are aligned by By school, you'll see that we have at Greeley West the agriculture pathway, construction, criminal justice, entrepreneurship, and the IB MYP program. At Northridge, culinary arts, engineering, information technology, and the junior ROTC program. At Greeley Central, we have the Health Science Academy, the Performing Arts, as well as the Visual Arts pathway programs. So some highlights of this past year. This summer, as you all know, we had a wonderful opportunity for 55 of our students that were juniors who participated in the internship program. This was a paid program, and many of our community businesses really stepped up and provided an opportunity for our students. It was a benefit to both parties, our businesses will tell us. They said that they valued it so much that they, as supervisors of students, grew and were so impressed with the students that we sent their way. We also began a pharmacy technician program at Greeley Central High School. So we have 4 business partnership levels. The gold standard is the one that we have talked about the most. That is with our 55 paid internships that were this past summer. But you'll see the blue ribbon standard, which provides, businesses will provide guest speakers and industry tours for our students. The bronze standard, which is an executive mentorship or the mentoring of our students. And the volunteer internship program for the silver standard. So next steps. What is next in our Career Pathways program? We are looking at an electronic college and career student portfolio system. We have found this to be a missing element that could add a lot of value to our students and our parents to be able to access their ICAP system online, to be able to access their high school credits and to know where they are and what they might be missing, to be able to actually explore colleges online and look at those colleges in a way of comparing colleges side by side and finding out what best meets their needs and where they want to go in their career. So we're excited about thinking about that system. In addition, we are doing our best to start the CNA program at Greeley Central High School. Just last week, we met with Ames, and this week we're meeting with our hospital on Thursday. And so we are trying to connect this and make this a capstone opportunity for our students in the Health Science Academy. We have about 18 seniors this year in that academy that would be very interested in the CNA program. It would make a big difference. So we're trying to get that implemented for second semester. Secondly, we have the entrepreneurship pathway at Greeley West High School. This is really a neat alignment with the University of Northern Colorado and the Montfort School of Business. They credential one of our teachers to teach the courses at the high school level, and then we want to create this direct path for our students who leave that entrepreneurship pathway and go right into the Montfort School of Business. We're excited about that. Then our post-secondary workforce readiness starting at the 6th grade through the Gear Up program, as well as the thinking of our middle schools and the connectedness between our middle schools and high schools together, working on a plan that would be implemented for our young students and starting early. We of course think that it needs to start thinking about careers and all, even in the elementary school, but we want a definite focus for post-secondary work beginning at 6th grade that would be carried on year after year so that we're not duplicating things year to year, but so that we're providing additional opportunities that can build one on the other as we go through the different years. And then we feel it's essential to support the transition from 8th to 9th grade and to make that more systematized, to make build a connection for our 8th graders with their high school of choice. That's why we're being very purposeful in having our schools showcase at the end of this month, and then with a visit to all 3 high schools, and in addition, early college academy, so that they start feeling very connected to their high school during this year. And that's our plan.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments from the board, please? One of the things that kind of has jumped to my interest area or my attention would be we've got the gold standard and we have the blue standard, and we see the community assisting in having our students get the opportunity to see what the real world is like. And they come back somewhat shaken, but it's a great experience for them at the levels that they're participating. I'd be interested in hearing at some point, Dr. Pilch or whomever might take the reins on this, the notion of some kind of an assessment, what we thought we were doing with these outreaches
Right.
are really summative for these students. And I don't know that every single student, not every student ends up attending or participating in something that she might have thought she would ever do. But if we're asking for support from the district and from other businesses, it'd be great to see, kind of a couple of years on, how this thing has turned out, or if there are some adjustments being made. Not necessarily, obviously, tonight, but something on the agenda for up ahead.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Richard?
I was just adding up the number of students that have declared an actual pathway, and that's a significant portion of our senior high students that are engaging in a career pathway, and that's pretty exciting. The other thing that I noticed is that over time some of our pathways have changed, and so there used to be a teacher pathway. I can remember a fire science pathway, but can you talk a little bit about the evolution of the pathways, and how do we determine which pathways we're going to have?
The pathways are determined by student interest. So if a student interest in a particular pathway wanes and is not there as it was, then we try to choose things that are maybe more aligned to student interests overall. This year, the fire science pathway, for example, moved back to Ames Community College, and we do have some students attending there. But our hope is that it will be back at Greeley West next year. And what we feel like we need to do to improve that pathway is help students to see that it's more than just being a firefighter, that taking that pathway provides opportunities for a wide variety of career choices, not just a firefighter. I do believe that some students hear about the many, many applications for that job in our town, and students are smart when they hear about 600 applications for one opening in our community. And so we are trying to figure out how to reach students, because we think the safety area of criminal justice and fire science is really an important community pathway for us. But we align it with student interests.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Hall?
I would also like to see some type of a questionnaire study, verification, I don't know what you call it, to be sure, just to be certain that our students out in the far east side, coming from Bella Romero, for example, have we satisfied all the transportation issues that might be, or are they still struggling with transportation issues, say if they want to go to Northridge for one of the career pathways? And just to make sure that we've got something either through GET, Greeley Evans Transportation, or something, so that something that we normally believe is somewhat trivial for most of us, like getting across town, isn't being a hurdle for some.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. We've worked really hard to remove as many barriers as we can. And we know that we have some students actually concurrently enrolled in more than one high school in order to access their career pathway. But I appreciate your comments, and we'll take a closer look at that. Thank you.
Mr. Lydiak.
Well, Dr. Pilch, how did you put it? Defining jewel or crown jewel of the district? Or
A
how do you-
jewel in our
the-
crown.
A jewel in our crown. I do believe that definitely about the career pathways, and just to kind of touch on what Mr. Hall was referring to, if I'm a student that is enrolled in Northridge, but I'm interested in the Health Sciences Academy, talk about what the high schools have done and how we've supported the ability that even though each career pathway has a home school, we allow our students to go or concurrently enroll in other high schools.
So there are a couple opportunities for students. They can open enroll into the high school of their choice to attend full-time the opportunities of the career pathway. And they can do that at any time during the open enrollment window, which, just to put a plug in for that, begins November 2nd and goes through December 17th. But then in addition to that, they can also get themselves over to another school for a course. Counselors and administrators will work with those students to make sure they have an open block for travel time. That usually doesn't happen until the junior or senior year, because we do have require a full load of classes the freshman and sophomore years, and so then that happens later on in their plan.
Mr. Hafley.
Thanks to everybody involved. They're wonderful programs. I have a couple of questions. I'm excited that we have not only post-high school experiences at our college, but vocational ed, and I think that's awesome. One of my, we talk, and I know Mr. Billings does a great job with this, we talk about ownership with clubs, with athletics, and now these career pathways allow students to have ownership within their buildings, and I would love to see the demographics that show how well they do academically compared to students who are not involved with any of the things that school has to offer, just to show the value and importance of everything that we provide for students. And I think the more that we create ownership, the more successful we'll be. And, to go with that, I'd also like to see the graduation rate. But I think that those numbers would be very eye-opening for our community to show them how well we're doing as a district.
Thank you.
I don't see any other comments at this time, but ask us again. I bet you we'll come up with some. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Well, the next item is a first read of revisions to Policy IKA, the Grading Assessment Systems, and the first read of Regulation IKA-R. And in concert with that, Dr. Richard had an observation about phrasing of one of these. Do you mind sharing a little bit from your angle, Dr. Richard, a couple of terms that we might want to swap around in these?
Yeah, it's a very minor wording change under the section called District Assessment System. Change from, in addition to the state assessment system, the district has developed a comprehensive assessment system. A change to the district shall develop a comprehensive assessment system. So a very small wording change to make it parallel with the rest of the policy.
With the rest of policy.
Yeah.
Thank you for catching that. I appreciate
It's a great
that.
suggestion.
And I have a feeling. So with that in mind, Dr. Pilch?
So what you have before you, the revised policy and the final policy and then the regulation. Tonight is a first read, so you'll have your next meeting yet where we can bring the revision back or any other significant changes that we should make before our next board meeting. But most of what you have here in this policy and regulation has been given to us by the state and as a part of the Colorado School Boards Association recommendations. This is a result of changes in state law this past spring, and we have an obligation to put this into policy. And I'll let Dr. Dattery talk to you a little bit more specifically about the big changes.
Thank you, Dr. Pilch. This, as you just mentioned, this policy is in response to House Bill 15-1323. And the first change you will see is in your revised policies. The bolded words are the revisions to these policies, and there's quite a bit in bold, as you can see. And as Dr. Pilch just explained, that is due to the state law requirements. So the first change to be addressed is that of paper and pencil testing option. So as stated in the revised policy, I will just this little part, the district may determine when a paper and pencil assessment is used in lieu of the computerized portion of state assessment. That is new. That was not in previous practice, really, and so they put it in law, and now it needs to be in policy. There are obvious factors that we need to consider when making this decision, and those are outlined further in the policy. And as stated further, prior to making the determination, the superintendent or designee shall consult with the school principals affected by this determination, as well as with parents or guardians of students enrolled in those schools across the district. And that would occur at either site or district meetings. So that's the first change around the paper pencil assessment option. The second change to be addressed per the law is that a parent or guardian request for exemption. So as stated in the first sentence in this section, a parent or guardian who wishes to exempt his or her child from a particular state assessment or assessments shall make this request in accordance with this policy's accompanying regulation. So the regulation you have in your board packet is in alignment with our current practices, and this regulation really just now codifies our current practices. But it is a requirement that we actually have such a regulation outlining the process for exemption by a parent or guardian. And the third change to be addressed includes that of sharing of the state assessment results for each student with parents or guardians. Again, as stated in the revised policy, the Colorado Department of Education is required to provide diagnostic academic growth information for each student enrolled in the district. This information shall be included in each student's individual student record. So now it's in policy. We have done that, but this is an assurance that it will be done, and it has to be in policy. It goes on to say appropriate school personnel, including those who work directly with the student, shall have access to the student's state assessment results and longitudinal academic growth information, and shall share with and explain that information to the student's parents or guardian. Again, practices we have actually all had in our district, but this does codify that in policy. There were minor adjustments that were made, as you can see, to the next section around district assessment systems, and those strikes and/or bold lettering to adjust the language was just due to the addition of the state assessment requirements in policy. And the final,
Excuse me, Stacy, I think here we would also want to insert the district shall.
Okay. Excellent.
To match the other language you were talking about earlier, Dr. Richard. Yeah. Yeah, we can
Beautiful.
edit that when what we bring forward next board meeting, Stacy. Thank you.
Excellent. And the final change to be addressed per state law includes that of providing additional assessment information for parents and guardians. As stated in the revised policy, it states, in accordance with state law and this policy's accompanying regulation, so that's at the bottom part of the regulation, the district shall distribute an assessment calendar and related information to parents or guardians on an annual basis to inform them about the state and district assessments that the district plans to administer during the school year. So there were no changes then to the remaining portion of Policy IKA on classroom assessment systems or grading systems. And in closing, I would to just share with you that this policy, once it is approved by the Board of Education, must be shared with parents and posted on our website. That is an additional requirement, as well as that information, as I just shared with you regarding our assessment calendar, including the estimated hours of testing, and if the assessment is required by federal, state, or local assessment practices. It will also inform parents of the purpose of such assessments and how that assessment data will be used. It is important to note that this part of the policy does not apply to any course-specific assessments that are not adopted by the Board of Education or to those non-standardized classroom assessments. So there's been some question around that, and I wanted to make that clear that if a teacher wants to give an assessment, a quiz, whatever it is, they don't have to post those kinds of things. So that is the summation of the changes as outlined, and do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, I think so. Thank you very much. Ms. Elise?
So when we advise parents of these changes and we make that public, do we offer that in different languages?
That's a great question, and yes, we would need to do that. We would need to look at translating that, and in the few languages that we cannot actually translate, we will make personal phone calls as we do in other areas. So, great question, and yes, we would need to do that.
Not to extend a silly conversation, but isn't it ironic that there are parents far and wide who wanted to opt out, and we risked mayhem if we got to a certain point of a number of opt-outs, and now it's part of state law to permit opting out. Likewise, some people in this room pretty much worked hard to make sure that we could get an electronic assessment system in place and spent a lot of money and a lot of time, and now they're saying, but, you know, if you don't get around to it, go ahead and, I think it's just some irony here, and in a way, it kind of says, I'm glad we did the work we did. I think it's going to end up being better for our students. But a year ago, some of this would have been fun. Thank you. Odd comment. Other comments, questions? Mr. Hall.
And kind of following along with your train of thought, maybe, just maybe, that this will force us, get the message across to the state to communicate and make relevant assessment tools to education today, such as with blended learning, as we talked when those two folks from the state were here, and we said if it's it should be relatively an assessment as they go through all the time without having to do that. So maybe this will bring, with the new law, because they've evidently heard parents being a little bit concerned about it, and they're willing to hold everyone harmless for it, but we still have to have assessments. And I think maybe this will breed the conversation that will bring relative assessment and viable assessment into the forefront.
I think we're all crossing our fingers, Mr. Hall. I'm pretty sure with
Just
that.
thought I'd say that. You can take care of that after we're done.
I'll give
here.
somebody a call.
Yeah.
And we'll see that that gets done. Other comments or questions from board members at this time? Seeing no other comments, we certainly thank you very much, Dr. Dattery, for your presentation. It's a welcome piece of information for us, and we will act on this next time with amendments. And at this time, that concludes our agenda, and I thank you for being here this evening, and I have to say this meeting is adjourned.